welcome all of you. I am pleased this evening to be able to present our Convergence Guest of Honor, the Emmy-nominated Charlotte Fullerton.
Who's worked two times. Two Emmy
Yes.
nominations and 2 losses. I'm
Yeah.
a 2-time loser. Hey.
You might know her work from, as she said, My Little Pony, or Ben 10, or the fan film Troops, but we are here tonight hopefully to get to know Charlotte a little bit better. So, if you have questions, I think we will definitely be taking questions. I might have you wait a minute and come back to you, so try to keep in your head what you had in mind to ask. The thing I was told we had to get to at some point, just so you're prepared, is the Jim Henson
story. I knew. Yeah.
But I thought we'd
I'm ready. I always have it ready.
save that for a minute and sort of let your fans know a little bit about how you came to be working in animation, and was that your goal all along? Did you start somewhere else? It's sort of a cross between television and writing, and it seems a little.
It actually kind of segues out of and through the Jim Henson story. So
we can
sort of
start
with
there.
my little life story. I'm Charlotte Fullerton. I grew up in a small town in Massachusetts with absolutely no ties to the entertainment industry or the publishing industry, anything. My dad works in a bank and is a musician at night, and my mom had a family daycare in our home, so it wasn't exactly, where's the Hollywood? So I had no idea how does one go from watching TV and consuming media to being the one who makes it. And back in the old days, it's not like we had computers and you could make a Batman versus Darth Vader, which I'm just blown away by. It's so amazingly done. Those kind of things. I was doing little, puppet shows in the garage, so, didn't even have a Super 8 camera to do claymations that I read about in Starlog magazine. Oh wow, how do you get to do this kind of stuff? And I had the great good fortune of getting to meet Jim Henson when I was a kid, because he was doing a college lecture tour and he happened to be speaking at MIT. My older brother was an undergrad there at the time as a mechanical engineer, and called home saying, I know you love the Muppets and everything, and Jim Henson's going to be speaking here tonight, and so I thought you might want to come. Oh, no, I want to come! Oh my God! This is what I'd never been to any fan conventions like this. Maybe they might have had them in Boston when I was a kid, but I didn't know about them. I don't know. I'd never met any writers. I'd never met any artists. I certainly never met any puppeteers or anybody. Jim Henson's caliber, his level, was the first time ever. So I'm begging my dad, please drive me to Boston. It's a school night, I'll never ask you for anything again as long as I live, please. And did. And it was a huge auditorium, and it's kind of weird to be up here speaking at events like this, and even opening ceremonies. It's wow, Mr. Henson was up there with the, prepared video segments that were shown, and that's the kind of thing I went on to produce very shortly thereafter in the beginning of my career. So yeah, it's surreal. And went and attended, and then when they got to the Q&A session, people were asking questions like, can you do Ernie's voice for us? And this kind of stuff. And I had questions I always wanted to ask. Again, I'm a kid, and they didn't have CG back then, certainly, and even radio control puppetry was a new thing. So I was, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, when they're rowing down the river and Ma and Emmett are singing, how did you? And I always wondered how they did that. And asked that question, and then another, I wish I could remember my second question, because other people weren't. You'd think people would be bombarding him. Jim Henson, a million questions, and I don't know if they were shy or what. Nobody was asking anything, and so I had a second question. It was another really specific, and that one shot, in the one that I can't remember whether it was a commercial or something. I've always wondered about. And then that sort of prompted people to start asking. But of course, when you're a kid, college is all grown-ups, so I'm we grown-up people, and. At the end, they said everybody can line up by the stage and get his autograph if you want. I'm like, I'm there, right in front. And it was September 18th of 1984, and I remember that because his birthday is the 24th. It's my grandma's, and I brought a birthday card with me, thinking maybe I'll be able to give it to somebody who'll be able to give it to somebody, give it to his assistant or something, get it to him, then he would say happy birthday card. So I'm sitting there you know, my Art of the Muppets book that I'd gotten when they visited the Children's Museum in Boston. He signed that for me that night. And he recognized me from the audience as having asked all the intelligent questions. I'm like, oh gosh, wow. And yeah, it's still surreal. I pinch my head, this is my real life. Oh my God, this really happened. Gave him his birthday card. Oh, well, that's so nice. He's a quick hug. And I go on my happy way, right? And long line of people all the way out of the auditorium, walking back to the car. It wasn't even the car, it was the family daycare van. With my dad. God, this is the closest I'll ever get to anything, you know, that I want to do with my life. You know, I have so many questions, so many things I want to ask him about. And my dad, well, why don't we get back in line and ask him if he wants to go out and have coffee with us or something, so you guys can talk. And I'm thinking, you know, and I never shut up now, so people don't believe me, but I was super shy as a kid, like more timid than shy. Like I wouldn't speak up at all, and certainly not around adults. I was very, you know, even went to private school, you know, you raise your hand before you speak kind of thing. I just would never, I can't talk to you, what am I gonna say? And she said, what's the worst he's gonna do? Is say no. He's not gonna take out a gun and shoot you, you know, it's like, you gotta act. Oh, I can't believe I'm doing it. And it was the hardest thing in the world for me to do, stand in that line again, surrounded by all these grown-ups, college kids, and me, you know, saying, I can't believe I'm doing this, oh my God, I can't believe, I'm back, and, you know, oh, you're back, and I'm, yes, and I'm like looking at my shoes and everything, and I'm sure my dad and he were looking eye to eye and smiling, you know, but, oh, if you're not too busy, and you know, we'll probably have to get up early in the morning, get on a plane or something, but would you have coffee with me? But, well, sure, that sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. And he totally left with us. We could have kidnapped him. I mean, he walked out the same path. Like, I just walked out with my dad to the canal. We're going to the daycare van with Jim Henson, and he's got Kermit and what I later found out in film school is like a tweeny lighting kit, and Henson Associates, the old logo, ha, you know, sticker on it, and I'm getting to carry Kermit the Frog. Like, oh, this is, again, you know, pinch me, I must be drinking, I can't believe this. Went back to his hotel and hung out at one of the, now that I'd never been to a hotel before, you know, to see, you know, one of these restaurants right off the lobby. And at the time, he signed some more stuff for me. He was telling me that they were in pre-production on this movie called Labyrinth, with David Bowie and George Lucas's involvement. And also Fraggle Rock was still in production in Toronto at the time. And he had said, oh, you know, if you ever happen to be in Toronto, you should stop by and see what we're doing. And I regret it to this day that I didn't, like, we should have driven to Toronto and just randomly stopped by. Oh, hi, we're just we're in the neighborhood. Thousands of miles, we just, thousands, but certainly a thousand. And after just spending that evening, just asked everything I ever wanted to ask. And this is, again, September of '84, so that summer, if you remember movies that came out in '84, Temple of Doom, Muppets Take Manhattan, but also The Last Starfighter, and that was huge, and Jim was, I say Jim, Mr. Henson was really into this 3D, CG, you know, the concept of being able to create, not just create images, but create objects in 3D space, and so I can't imagine what his reaction would have been to the first Jurassic Park. You know, like he would have been all over that, I'm sure, not just as a viewer, but he would have been involved. That's what he was, when he was describing watching Last Starfighter, that's what he was seeing, you know, happen with the Muppets, or happen with, you know, sort of not necessarily the traditional Muppet characters, but it was, yeah, sort of interesting to see. So that's the beginning of the story, and then school night, heading home, all this kind of stuff. That's September. The following April, oh, and he also gave me his address in New York at the, you know, the old Muppet headquarters, and said to write personal on the letter, so his secretary went over them and they gave him. And oh yeah, just, you know, write to me, let me know what you're doing. And okay, so you know, sent him a Christmas card, and it was kind of filled in on my little goings on during the year. And then come April. So April of '85, we had an unseasonable snowstorm. I remember it vividly because they sent us home from school, and it took hours to get home on the bus in the snow, like huge, huge snowstorm. So we were all snowed in. And we get a call at the house, landlines in those days, call at the house. My little brother, the jokester of the family, picks up the call and says, "Come to my room, I'm practicing the guitar," and he says, yeah, Jim Henson's on the secretary's on the phone for you from England. They want to know, you know, if you're going to come and visit when they're shooting this summer. I'm like, yeah, sure. It's one of your buddies, and they're on the phone because they're home from school, and I'm going to answer it all excited. And yeah, Fishman, okay. So I get on there, and it's Jim Henson's assistant calling from England. So, oh yeah, we're just getting settled in here now, and we're going to be shooting this summer, and Jim wanted me to call and see if you were interested in coming to visit. I'm like, I'm in school, and I deliver newspapers for a living. I don't have any money. I've never been to summer camp. How am I gonna? So again, I'm begging my parents, please, 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 let me go to England, please. I'll never ask you for anything again. Please, I'll talk to do this. And it's amazing to me that they let me do this kind of thing. As a super, super sheltered kid, and in terms of, I certainly didn't travel internationally by myself. Again, I live in a small town, so I'm not familiar with big cities. I didn't know how to take public transportation. I was not the most sophisticated kid in the world. But they arranged all this stuff for 2 weeks in August of '85. It's when Little Shop of Horrors was also shooting in London, and I mentioned that because I got to be on the set of Labyrinth for 2 weeks, during which time Frank Oz, across town shooting Little Shop of Horrors, sent a sign-up sheet needing extra puppeteers to be the other parts of Audrey 2 at the end where there were little sprites singing, and all the puppeteers were being used on Labyrinth, and I actually signed up for that. Of course, I couldn't do it, but that was one of those, I should have gone and visited that too. So I got to go, and it was the first time I was ever arrived at an airport in my life alone, and had somebody standing there with a sign with my name on it. I just can't get over it that it's a real thing. This is my real life, So that was my huge motivating force that night that I had coffee with Mr. Henson. He said that if you're really serious, you really want to do this, when you grow up here, you want to go to USC for film school. He said that your peers in the industry, your peers in class will be your peers in the industry someday. That was the direct quote, and that turned out to be true. And I wanted to go to USC for film school because I read about it in George Lucas's biography, Skywalking. It's the only film school I didn't know about marching band and football. All I knew was, well, George Lucas went there, and I love Star Wars, so I guess that's where I'm going. I had no other college plans. So then when Jim Henson said it, that just confirmed it. Like, okay, I don't know how we're going to pay for this, but I'm going.
Would you recommend people who are interested in getting animation, they should still go to USC?
Well, not so much animation, because I'm not an animator, but that's a CalArts thing. Absolutely, CalArts, if you want to animate in terms of physically drawing, even whether it's on a computer or not, you've got a creative, it's going to come from you. But USC was more physical production, certainly then. Now they have animation and video game design. Actually, my cousin Tracy's the head of video game design.
Physical production includes the writing, the direction,
sound design, the whole thing, camera operation. My good friend Kay was my PA and AD and every other initial you can think of. I say, hey Kay, I have to get to the beach to shoot puppets on the beach before sunrise, so we have to dig trenches so they can be sitting on the beach. Can you give me a ride to the beach at 5 a.m. on Saturday after your long work week? And do you have any shovels I can borrow? And can you help me dig? I don't know why you said yes to these things.
It's a sort of different level to the friends you would call to help you bury a body. The friends who you would call to help you dig a trench on the beach for puppets.
For puppeteers, yes. And that's friends to this day, yes.
You've done pretty much all of those components in your work. You've done, I think, sound design. I was looking at IMDb credits and like,
I did on Troops, for sure.
Yeah.
Foley and all, and it certainly came in handy when I got my very first job out of college at Fox Kids Network at its inception. So it wasn't, the behemoth that it became, and it was just a handful of us that executives and assistants included could sit at this table at lunch together. It was a real small operation. And when Power Rangers hit and then X-Men concurrently, and it just took us to #1 network, it was still this, kind of mom and pop shop. And a lot, of course, is Barry Diller, Rupert Murdoch's money, it's not mom and pop shop, but us on the, in the trenches doing this, working for our benevolent leader, Margaret Lesh, who I mentioned by name because she had been the producer on Muppet Babies, which I watched. So I'm, oh my God. And then she's gone on in recent years, she's the CEO of the Hub, so in My Little Pony, working for her again. Best boss in the world, because she let all of us energetic, enthusiastic young people who had all this energy and willing to work, do pretty much anything that we had the talent and skill to do. Like if it wasn't in your job description, you could still do it. So I was hired to answer the phones at the front desk and make travel arrangements for the executives and this kind of stuff. Get coffee for people who were busy. Meanwhile, I also built the walk-around character costumes. Like we were just at Mall of America today for 4th of July. Yay, I feel American. And saw like the Jimmy Neutron characters and the SpongeBob. That's the kind of stuff that I built while my job was at the front desk. On the side, I built these walk-around Tom and Jerry kids costumes, and also wrote for the Fox Kids magazine when they needed, we need somebody who can write in Beetlejuice's voice, but it has to be about bugs for the special article educationally from, sponsored by the Smithsonian or something. Oh, I can do that, sure. And just volunteer. We need somebody who can write these end credit announcements they used to have back. These kids don't know, but back in the old days, they used to actually run the end credits at the end of each show with the song from the show. And so you see 30 seconds of just the names going by the song. And they'd use it to have an announcer's voice tell you what was coming up next, and sort of all this kind of thing. Well, we did it with the cartoon voices. So I got to learn how to write for the Pinky the Brain voices and for the Tick, and so all these character voices before I was writing the shows themselves. And it was a huge help for me, but the fact that that wasn't my job. I'm answering the phones. Quick, we need somebody to run down the audio and direct these voice actors. I'll do it. We need somebody to run up to Universal Studios and direct the Universal Studios Monsters. That was a great one, to do a Halloween thing. I'm like, I know how to do that. Okay, and I think we were there before opening on a Sunday at Toys R Us once in Burbank, shooting a Power Rangers promotion with the Power Rangers doing backflips off of these little trampolines and stuff. Forgot about that till just now. Yep, and I go to my old film school friends to say, who can I count on to show up? And Dave McDermott, who's now a fantastic writer in animation. He's an executive at Fox Kids, but back then, just starting out, and he's just written on Guardians of the Galaxy and a ton of stuff he wrote for us. He showed up at that shoot and sort of, who can you, I'll be very polite. Who's going to help you shoot the Power Rangers at Toys R Us at 5 a.m. on a Sunday? Who can you count on? And one of the people I could always count on was also, his name's Kevin Rubio, and he was another person working at Universal as a puppeteer with me, and worked at Fox Kids. And I was answering phones. He was doing cell restoration, not restoring the cells himself, actually just cataloging and all this kind of stuff. So we were all sort of these low-level, mid-level jobs.
Office flunkies who could be called on in a moment's notice.
Exactly, and there were only so many of us, but we were there, like 24 hours a day anyway. It was like college. It was great. We were just, it was so much fun, and the fact that Margaret let us do all this stuff. I remember guys playing Doom. Remember that game, Doom, and Descent, from office to office. That was kind of the first sort of internet-y
LAN game.
Game, exactly. That you don't have to sit next to the person that you're playing with. That you could be in another room, playing a game that you guys can't conceive of it, but that was a big deal back then. I remember people staying late into the night. It's like, I'll be in my office and you be in your office. We get to play against each other. That was a big deal then. But so it gets to be around 97. We're at Fox Kids. I worked my way up from answering phones to being a junior producer, which is like a producer but smaller, and then a producer of promos, not a producer of the shows, but of the commercials that advertise the shows. It's these 30 seconds of coming up next, kids, or next week on, and that's where I got a lot of use out of my film school experience, mainly in post-production, doing all this heavy sound. And getting to know all these people at different post houses that had access to this equipment and had all this skill.
Was that during that phase when the characters would do a promo for each other's shows? Was that a Fox Kids thing?
I don't know
each
other shows.
Fox Kids.
They tend to only promote their own shows or the entire network.
Yeah, okay.
They promote each other's
They would promote the whole network.
Yeah. Fox Kids, Rock Kids, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it would be the Tick, the voice Townsend Coleman coming in saying, ooh, Nick Bean, I'm superhero. I remember having him say that. That was awesome. The older folks get that, yes. That was really cool. I still have my 10-inch talking Tick dolls.
Oh, my.
Cool. That's awesome.
My son has a really good line in Spoon. So of all those transient projects that came and went before you got really settled into something? Are there any that particularly stand out as being fun or crazy or difficult or, oh, thank God we got through that, or anything you can share about those sort of, when you're jumping from one thing to the next? The beach
Well,
was a good story.
the big thing I have to say is, you know, I was about to sort of segue into it around 97, and we're all kind of settled into our jobs here, going, darn it, someone gave us a chance, we could do something really cool. You know, and now I know people who do sound design professionally for a living, you know, people who build costumes for a living, special effects guys, you know, nobody, you know, these huge budgets or, you know, the caliber to actually get a feature made, but all these people with these different skill sets, and darn, and there was no Kickstarter, there's no YouTube, it was more like, okay, what are we gonna do? And like, no one's gonna give you a chance, just do it. And it happened to be these two guys hanging around, Fox Kids, or this would have been like 96, 97, literally hanging around, sitting on the floor, leaning against the wall. I was like, they were underfoot, very literally, I'm tripping over. Their names were Matt and Trey, and some people may recognize that, who had just done this short, very funny, sort of home movie in black and white called Your Studio and You. And it was when Seagram's, the alcoholic drink, that company bought Universal Studios. And they did this whole behind the scenes thing that might be on YouTube, must be on YouTube, shot at Universal Studios. And they got all these celebrities, you know, real celebrities, including Steven Spielberg, on camera, doing these bits about Seagram's and how wonderful their new corporate overlord was going to be. It was super, super funny. And so that got passed around. Because there's no YouTube, there's no viral videos. It was a VHS tape that you'd make a copy of, You had to actually know somebody who would hand you a tape. It's not like something you could put on YouTube and people can see it all over the world. It's like the glorified wedding video. Somebody has to give it to you. So they'd done that, and then they did a short, animated short that was with little construction paper, little characters, round heads, big eyes, with these kind of friendly voices I did, and it was called Spirit of Christmas, and it was Jesus versus Santa Claus, and it was super obscene, and it was super funny. And it was getting a lot of buzz, like Your Studio and You that they had passed around hand by hand. The Spirit of Christmas was just blowing it. Like, if there had been such a thing as a viral video, that's really the first viral video. But it was hand to hand on I saw it, you know, degenerated from however many, with all the static, and it was hysterical. And they, out of that, and you may have read it, you know, their various interviews, they ended up getting a deal with Comedy Central that would have been coming the following year in '98, this series called, a little thing called South Park. And so when they got that, we're like, darn it, we gotta do something, we gotta pull Spirit of Christmas, something short and funny that people are gonna wanna pass around. Again, viral video was not a term yet, there's nobody, we hadn't heard of these things. Back in the olden days, we didn't have these kinds of things. So we're like, gosh, we gotta do this. So we're working at Fox in our various office jobs and technical jobs, and the Star Wars special editions were just then, the first Star Wars special edition was coming out. Since we're at Fox, we got to go to the screenings for free on the lot. And because we were young and poor, free equals good. And old and free equals good also, so, but back then, for sure. So we all went to see the first Star Wars special edition. And that's on the drive home, myself, another animation writer of some renown now, Steve Melching, who's done Clone Wars, and Guardians of the Galaxy, also the Batman, a ton of stuff. David Dermott was involved in that too. And Kevin Rubio, who ended up writing and directing this short film, 10 minutes and 4 seconds. God, I can't believe I've forgotten. I used to know this down in my brain because I did the post. Post-producing anyway. A short film called Troops, which was a parody of Cops, also a Fox property, set in the Star Wars universe. And that idea came to us on the ride home, carpooling back from Fox, seeing this special edition, thinking, okay, you know, first we were going to do it as a comic strip, because a friend of ours at the time named Mark Altman, who's gone on to great things, also they did Free Enterprise, actually, and some other things like that.
Mark was brilliant.
Yes, I knew Mark and Bob Burnett, but Mark was an editor at Sci-Fi Universe magazine for another friend, Chris Gore, who did Film Threat magazine and owned all those things. And it sounds all, you know, sort of glamorous, like, ooh, he owned all these. I remember
No.
Chris Gore, and Kay does too, in his old office in the 90s, hand splattering red paint on the cover of each individual Film Threat magazine. If you have any film threats from back then, that was hand done. So it was very, yes, he owned his own franchise.
Well, owning magazines like that is not glamorous.
He sold the franchise to Larry Flint Publications, so he did all right eventually, but back then, you know, it was very, very, just a kind of fanzine. But Sci-Fi Universe magazine was going to publish our comic strip, Troops, which was a very day in the life of stormtroopers behind your sort of, kind of the conversation they had in Clerks, if you remember when they're talking about, you know, what it must be like for your average guy working on the Death Star when all this stuff is going down. So it's along those lines. And then, because the special edition was coming out, they had a premiere at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood, and we're watching the 11 o'clock news. And there are these people there with these awesome stormtrooper costumes. With, back then, it was unheard of to see fans with the distressed stormtrooper. You know, usually you'd see people would be pristine, but these people had the, you know, the blaster marks on it, and oh my God, those are awesome. Who are these people? There's 4 people, 2 guys, 2 girls, identical twin girls. And it turned out they all were students at the Art Center of Design in Pasadena. The then admissions officer of the Art Center of Design in Pasadena was roommates with Kevin Rubio. Because she's the one who said, all you have to do is find identical twin girls who know vacuum form somewhere on this campus. And I'm like, well, how hard can that be? And so we ended up approaching them going, oh my God, these costumes are amazing. We want to shoot something. We're going to do a comic strip after all. You know, Kevin came up with the script and based on actually hours of the Cops TV show, and they shot it March of '97 over 2 weekends out in the deserts in El Mirage, and then we premiered it at San Diego Comic-Con in the summer. And everybody that saw it at San Diego was, what's it like working at ILM? And I'm like, we wish we knew, since none of us worked there, you know. And people thought this is pre-episode 1, so people thought this was footage from the new Star Wars that everyone was talking about. Like, wow, man, this is all just, it's not quite as the media made it like we were all, you know, just a bunch of kids in our garage. I mean, everybody was a professional. The sound design was done by professionals who worked at Fox Kids. Young though they may have been, they knew what they were doing.
You were working in an actual post-production facility.
Yes, and the guys who did the, you know, the integrated the CG with the live action, they knew what they were doing. It wasn't just, let's make something. It was a little bit like that, but at the same, we all just kind of did a little bit of everything. And towards the end, towards the end of post, we were running out of time because we were going to screen this thing at Comic-Con. And Sean Jordan, one of the producers, who did the CG, and I was leading the team that was doing all the sound concurrently. So they're doing finalizing picture, we're finalizing sound across town. There are no servers, there's no internet. It's not like we're sending things back. It literally was still, we shot it on high 8, so we didn't even have digital tape. So they're finishing effects, visual effects, we're finishing the audio. When we all watched it at San Diego Comic-Con that time, it was the first time we saw picture and sound married together. So I remember sitting there nervously like, that Jawa is about to get shot in the head. You're going to hear it. You better darn well see it. Or, you know, like there's going to be an explosion sound. I really hope that sandcrawler is going to explode, because otherwise, or it's going to be out of sync. And we just did it all by the numbers. You know, okay, the explosion starts here at 104, 17, whatever it is, and then, you know, increases, and then it hits its peak at this point, and then declination, and like, oh my God, thank God for math. Yay, math! So that was amazing. That was another one of those, I must be dreaming. We screened it in a room half this size on a Thursday at San Diego Comic-Con. Back in '97, Thursday was the throwaway day of Comic-Con. And it was so packed, people were out the doors, and it was just like fire marshal hell, you know, like I can't believe they even allowed it. We didn't have a screen, they put it on this dinky little TV, you had to stand up to be able to see it. And we had the guys and the 2 girls in their stormtrooper costumes there to sort of lead people and handing out flyers. And it was just packed, you know, and we screened it once and then screened it, they want to see it again immediately, and again people are asking, what's it like to work at ILM? We don't know, we don't work there. and it was this resurgence of the fan film. They asked us, Comic-Con asked us to screen it again in one of the big rooms with the hanging screens that Sunday or Saturday or something on one of their big days. And that was also really just surreal to be up there in the big, never having been on one of these stages before and not particularly a public speaker. Wow. And again, pre-internet. It hit the net in February of '98, and I remember it so distinctly because the guys at University of Texas did a fan site called theforce.net. Extremely well produced. It was like back then, websites were really crummy looking if they existed at all. It would hold up to modern times. It was very well done. The guy who did it, I wish I could remember his name, went on to run StarWars.com. So that was his job apparently out of college. So he impressed other people too. They offered to host it for us through our friend from Film Threats, Chris Gore, hooked us up. And as soon as they put it up there, it immediately crashed all the servers. And the reason it's in 2 acts, you may notice it's in 2 acts, is because you had to be able to download it in the old dial-up days. You can't even say to kids it was on your home phone because they don't even know what the home phone lines are, but it was, you actually use the telephone to download things. And if somebody called you, it would interrupt it, and you'd have to start. It would take hours, and you'd have to start all over again. It would take like all night long. So it's in 2 acts to make it more, a little more doable. Which, now it's just on YouTube, whatever, high quality. I think, well, the people my age laughing back at you, frustration, but then that was February '98. March '98, we were in Time Magazine, in Newsweek, and the Oscar edition of Entertainment Weekly did this 2-page spread. Again, we had just shot it the previous March. This was just us making a thing. And Premiere Magazine credited us with starting the entire entertainment content online phenomenon. Wow, that the word viral video was invented to describe troops. We just made a thing. It was just the same as taking, begging Kay to dig, ditches on the beach. It was just me and my friends making a dumb, trying to get some attention. And boy, wow, did we? Because we didn't realize at the time that we had this thing called the internet, on our side. That even Matt and Trey didn't have going for them back in the day. It just happened to hit. We didn't do it on purpose. It just happened. Like, wow, we invented viral video. Go figure. No, I mean, we meant to do it all along. We planned it very carefully in advance.
Planned lolcats.
Always. So so that kind of took me to Amy and everybody else involved in it to the next step in our careers. And I just went to Kids WB from there and still doing promos. That was my day job, doing promotion for things, but started actually writing on the shows. And some of those same friends from Troops and I from film school had actually sold our own show to Fox Kids back in '95 also. Never got made, but
What was it?
It was called Spatial Delivery and then Moonhoppers. It was very much like what Futurama.
Okay.
Actually. Similar, but not, I shouldn't say very much, not like suable.
No.
It's just a delivery service in space.
That ballpark.
Yeah. But, so that's kind of definitely how I got the start. When you say, I definitely always wanted to do kids TV, but primarily because of the Muppets or Saturday morning cartoons that I watched, and it may also be because I had a really sheltered childhood and I didn't really know much else. I only watched Saturday morning cartoons, and we only watched TV. We were only allowed to watch Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, Electric Company, 3-2-1 Contact. That was the afternoon. That was the after school lineup. And then the Saturday morning cartoons and the weekends, and there weren't cartoons on during the week. Other than your Rankin Bass stuff at Christmas and Easter and those kind of things. Wizard of Oz once a year. So very, I had kind of a limited palette to choose from to have influenced me as a writer. That and the Bill Cosby records, the old from the '60s. No comments about Bill Cosby here, but in the day he was, oh my gosh, the To Russell, I wrote it myself, the go-karts. It still holds up. If you don't know it, you've got to listen to it. They're on YouTube. And I say listen because there's nothing to watch. It's just him telling stories. And that's a huge influence on my own storytelling self. Just the way, what information you choose to tell the audience, and then the pacing, the way you dole it out. definitely Cosby's original, I shouldn't say original, but those old records, Tonsils and, gosh, I can't think of the others off the top of my head. But those Chicken Heart, how could I forget? Oh my God, yeah.
The birthday cake.
All of this stuff is amazing, yeah. And not just, the subject, but the way he chose to tell the story. If you listen to, he's really studied them. It's interesting, but I heard them over and over and over and over again and learned.
Are there any other resources like that that you would recommend to people or that you use to help you study and learn how to do the writing? Because I have to say that the pacing on the shows you write is one of the best things about them. There's so little lag. It's just like
I've got to give credit to the directors on that too.
It's
because
really tight.
that's something certainly in the writing, but the directors can alter that for better or for worse, and we're lucky to work with some of the best
Yeah.
in business. Yeah, and gosh,
Writers that you think of.
I mean, things for me that influenced me are certainly Jerry Jewell as a writer on all that Muppet stuff, at the classic heyday of Muppets. I think when the Muppets really changed, it wasn't so much when Jim Henson died, it was when Jerry Jewell wasn't as involved, and then when he died, I think they just lost their voice for a while, literally. It's not just the actors doing it, it's the writing. But now that you've got YouTube, you've got everything at your disposal. Again, I just happen to have these records because my parents had them when they were young. So it's not. I mean, I'm a huge fan of MASH when I was older, and certainly very character-based stuff. The idea of having a huge cast and trying to sort of subdivide to get the characters, just 2 or 3 of them together, so they have time to interact and talk. And certainly characters who will have the least in common and get on each other's nerves the most. So, I definitely use that, like say in My Little Pony for Look Before You Sleep. Yeah. That's straight up Oscar and Felix, that's the odd couple. That's messy and neat. Yeah, so that's kind of classic television. Northern Exposure also, I can't say a huge influence on me as a child, but as an adult, that's just amazing writing. Wonderful characters and characterizations as well. In terms of, it's hard to say what I would recommend people use as touchstones, because it depends on what you're trying to write. I tend to write kind of quirky and very character-based things. It was interesting, I was on a panel the other day here with a couple of novelists, and they kept saying, story this and story that, story. And I'm like, wow, you guys approach everything from story. I approach everything from character. I don't know if that's just personality or the way we go about it, or if it's the difference between television and novels, but I'll watch, if it's a character that I love, I'll watch him do anything. The Buffy the Vampire Slayer characters, if they bring back, Spike and Drusilla, I'll watch him in outer space, I don't care, it's like whatever, I mean, it'll be campy, but it's not the setting, that's not what I care, or the Old West, or wherever it's taking, wherever it's taking place. That's not what's most interesting to me. It's the people, and or the ponies, or the whatever it is, the aliens. The characters are always, or the frogs and pigs and and chickens and penguins that are big birds.
A lot of your work has been noted for it being accessible to or interesting to different levels of audience. Is that something you consciously set out to build in? Is something for adults or kids or teens, or is that something that happens because you're you and other people develop that? How do you think that works?
No, I think we do it consciously, and not just me. I tend to work with people who are, they aren't just hacks. You don't just take the job because, I need to check, I'll just do it, whatever, here, have a draft go. Everybody involved, and it's just been very lucky. Everyone involved in the shows I've worked on really want to do something special, something cool, and that's why we always end up with something special and something cool.
Do you have any moments where you'll look at some joke and as a teen you'll go, we need to pull that one back, that one went too adult, or do you guys mostly keep it? Where do you start at?
There are times on My Little Pony where I was pulling myself back for that reason. In the beginning, way in the beginning, they didn't know that there was going to be a brony fandom. This is a show for 4-year-olds and largely 4-year-old girls. And so it had to be preschool. And Lauren Faust, she and Rob Renzetti, who doesn't get the due that he deserves in the fandom. I try to mention his name as often as I can. I don't know why, but Rob Renzetti, he was the head writer on the first 2 seasons, and he had created My Life as a Teenage Robot, and just super funny, super brilliant guy. and was integral to the writing and the formation of the series. And I never hear the fans, you know, Lauren's fantastic, Big and McCarthy's fantastic, but in between those two was Rob, in terms of the timeline. And I'd be in story meetings, like the one I did with Bird and the Hoof, with the Phoenix, who was Phoebe the Phoenix when I wrote her. I think she became Philomena by the end, by the time legal got through with clearing names for use. But I remember pitching that, like, she's got this horrible smoker's cough, and, you know, she's like, she's deteriorating during the whole bit is that, I mean, she's a Phoenix, she's an adult, you know where this is going. Obviously, she's going to end up in, you know, ashes, and she's going to rise again. But if you're a 4-year-old little girl, what's going on? This poor, you know, and Fluttershy is trying to take care of her. She's just getting worse and worse. And then when she bursts into flames, and she's like a pile of ashes, and Fluttershy's horrified, and she has to confess to Princess Celestia that she's killed her beloved pet. You know, we're busting up in the story meeting, the three of us, and I'm like, oh, we can't really do that. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, don't self-send that's hysterical. We should do that. Really? Okay. And the fact that they let us do that is just wonderful. You know, it's one thing to, and it's not, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, it's not obscene. It's not, you know. And I love South Park, but South Park, The Simpsons, same thing. Love The Simpsons, but. And I hate to use words like edgy when it comes to kids' TV, because it's not edgy, but things like that, like any other instances in My Little Pony and Fairly Odd Parents, which thankfully I also got to write, but old school Muppets, it's got that quality you mentioned about it's for adults, and certainly the old Warner Brothers cartoons.
Two levels.
It's or multiple, you know, you get the teenage, you get young adult. So when you're a kid and you watch it, years later, you can watch it again and go, oh, that's what was going on. But even if you don't really get the reference, you know, no one's going to get the Benny Hill reference we were doing in that episode, and nor should they. But it's still funny, just the characters rushing around with that kind of music. And then years and years and years later, should they ever hear Benny Hill, and oh, now I get it. Which is exactly what happened to me with the Muppets, you know, growing up. I thought all these bits were really funny, and then, of course, they were referencing other things. Or those Bugs Bunny references to Humphrey Bogart, and, you know, all these kind of things.
The endless Bugs Bunny references where I
don't know what they were talking
I
about.
had a string where I watched a whole bunch of the old black and white movies, and I was like, I know all of this from Bugs Bunny.
Oh my gosh, yes. Bill the Rabbit, the very first
We have about 15 minutes.
Wow,
Let's
okay.
see if there's any.
Let's do a question. I'll keep talking, but.
So what was the first thing you actually wrote and aired?
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. My Mighty Morphin Power Rangers script was co-written. No, Zeo was the second series, and I also wrote for that. But the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was the first script I co-wrote with Steve Melching, and the very first thing we ever had produced. Yeah.
That must have been kind of special.
It was really amazing. I was working at the network at the time, so I got to promote my own show, which was really. I mean, how can that not be amazing?
In that kind of television situation, did you have much to do with the actual production of it? Did you go down and see it? Did you call it? Did you turn the script and
I believe I did, and only because I had a day job. Because I had to work at the network,
Okay.
and now I think about it, darn, I should have asked for the time off and gone to watch the shoot. But no, I had to answer the phones. Any other questions? Really? You're gonna leave me hanging here? All right, I'll keep you happy. Oh, yes.
I have a couple of kind of stupid ones.
Stupid ones, I love those. Are my favorite kind of questions. Go for it.
Okay, you wrote the Kim Possible episode with the nanny, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, a couple questions related to it. To get people to stop arguing. Okay, is it nanny mame or name?
Just with an M, MAME.
Okay.
Making something.
Thank you.
Sure.
And, okay, in the fandom we've heard so many terrible stories about the going-ons behind season 4. Did you have any kind of issues, like it only had a certain amount of time to get it done that wasn't really enough, or you got scraps of an episode to try to write around?
None of that. That was one of the, what I should have mentioned is one of the highlights of my career is that I got, and Nicole Dubuque, who's here as a guest also, I can thank for getting me that job on Kim Possible. They were canceled. They were done. And we were out at lunch, and she introduced me to her old boss from Kim Possible, who was no longer on the show because it was canceled, this guy Tom Hart. And I'm just gushing about how much I love Dr. Draken. I love Kim's grandma. I had all these story ideas. Like, oh, no, too bad you couldn't do this. Too bad you couldn't. Oh. And Nicole came up with Coco Moo, for God's sake. She's one of my heroes. You know? And you should seek her out if you're a Kim Possible fan, definitely. So the fact that I was already a huge fan of the show, and I'm having lunch with her and her previous boss on the show, not realizing that that this guy knows that they've been picked up again, and I don't know that I'm basically in a job interview pitching myself as a potential writer. I'm just saying, I love this, what you guys did. How did you manage this at Disney? Because it's not very Disney-esque for what Disney did at the time. It really stuck out like a sore thumb. Not good or bad, just different in tone. And man, this thing is huge, this is wonderful. And then the next time we had lunch, he was giving me a packet of materials that were the new story. It wasn't a new Bible, lowercase b, that they have for each show, but it was the new story materials for the upcoming season. And I got to pitch, I probably did maybe 4 to 8, they're called springboards, which are just like dating myself again, a TV guide, a little blurb, but it would be like on your DVR where it just has a little description, this is what happens in the episode. Pitched a bunch of those ideas. They didn't pick any of them, but they gave me one that they had been wanting to do, and had me, so they gave me the idea, and then had me write that. So, but it wasn't like, I hadn't heard that. It must just be something that's going around in the fandom that's kind of self-perpetuating. It started there and is just continuing there, because there wasn't any upheaval or infighting or what exactly is?
We just heard that it was a big pile of drama, and that they just took bits and pieces from previous seasons and never got a full episode, and that they made the writers use those for the fourth season.
If they did, I wasn't one of them.
That rumor could come out of, they had springboards they wanted to be used. Like, I could see how that can transform into telling into, you were forced to use old material.
I don't know. But I've got a million springboards for say Ben 10, you know, or any other show, or My Little Pony. You know, you never know when somebody's gonna have like at this event. You know, if I were to run into somebody who, like, say Brian and Nicole, who were, if they were to say, would you want to work on something? Sure. Here, I got 10 ideas I just happen to have off the top of my head. It's not necessarily a bad thing, I guess I should say, if that's the case, if people were reusing ideas that they didn't get to do earlier in the season. That's what you do. That's television. That's on every show. That's not just unique to Kim Possible. If you hope you get picked up for another season and get to do more.
Do you have a list of what shows you've written for? Because I know some of the ones you've written for, but
and IMDb is incorrect. That's one of those things I need to prioritize, is fixing it. Not just me, for all of my friends too. It's like it credits me for things I never wrote and things that it's missing things that I did. And, no, I can't remember. I only go back to, that's right, I did a couple of Digimon.
because I know you were writing for like Ben 10 and things like that, and then when I saw your name pop up on Green Lantern,
Yay!
wow.
Co-written with Kevin Rubio, James fan. I forgot I wrote Green Lantern, so they just said that. And I forgot what the episode was titled, because when we wrote it, it was called Lost in Translation, so I don't know what the
Did you
final...
co-write it with Kevin, or okay?
Yeah, and we co-wrote an Avengers Assemble that just aired this spring, featuring Ant-Man, which is kind of cool.
It was the last one before the break.
Yeah,
The
cool.
most recent one.
And we co-wrote a Thunderbirds Are Go, the new
Right,
series.
the new one,
But
yeah.
so that hasn't come out yet, but if anybody here remembers the old Thunderbirds Are Go, and the name Parker means anything to you, he's featured very heavily in ours.
Yes, my lady.
Exactly.
Were you a fan of the original show?
I wasn't. It was before my time just a little bit, and I only became aware of it because at Fox Kids in the 90s, at one point they acquired it and had us cut it down, and I just remember being tediously slow. That it was, I don't know how long the original episodes were, but it just took forever, not just because they were puppets, but I don't know what it was, for things to move through frame. It was just kind of, physically move this thing along. So I did actually cut it apart in the other day.
The original ones were an hour.
An hour, then we must have cut them down to 22.
Well, what they did is they kind of rewrote them and redid the voices. Because there were certain terms that they would use, like...
very British.
They only did four episodes, but they used American actors in the original one because Lou Grade wanted to sell all these programs to the U.S. because that's where the money was, and he was very successful at doing that. But when I heard the term droid used in an episode, I go, wait a minute, number one, that's not the original actor's voice, but that term did not exist in 1965. So yeah, they totally redid those.
Well, the new series is fantastic. I haven't seen a completed episode yet, but I'm really excited to And I guess they're gonna be showing one in San Diego next week, so it's the first time I get to see it.
So, any idea if that's gonna be aired in the US by anyone?
I don't know, not that because I wasn't a producer on the show, I don't really have access to that kind of information. I just find out, you know, in the press like the rest of you do, so I wanna see it, so hopefully it'll be in the US. I won't have to watch it online, I wanna pay for it.
Are there any like dream projects that you would like just beg to be invited to, or things, ambitions you have career-wise?
Anybody in this audience who knows me, who has heard me speak on other panels, knows my answer to this, and it begins with the letter M, the Muppets. For sure, Sesame Street, but I mean, that would be the dream job, to get to write those characters, to get to put words in, you know, that I got to write for Mark Hamill back at Fox Kids when he was doing the voice of the Joker. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That I got to write for Tim Curry both at Fox Kids when he did Hook for us in Fox's Peter Pan and the Pirates, but then recently on Ben 10 Omniverse he played the Forever King, the King of the Forever Knights, and I think we might have even been the last people to ever record him before. But things like, you know, getting to work with people that, not just work with them, but I get to tell them what to do. Dance, monkey, dance, you know, it's like a Mark Hamill, you're trying to play cool, you know, like I don't want to be like, oh yes, okay, Mr. Hamill, you know, this, and instead of, you know, I used to have stickers of you all in my notebook.
He's gotta get better.
I know, he was here, but I can try to be professional in these situations, and, you know, people rush up at the studio, you know, crowding him for his autograph and stuff, and I'm in the green room with him, going through the script, you know, he's highlighting, underlining, whatever, you know, actors have their own marks thing, and people are interrupting and wanting things signed or wanting a picture taken with him, and I said, oh, okay, can I do anything, you know, is there anything that you want? And I said, I want you to get in there and, you know, kick butt, give us a great performance, you know. I didn't get my picture taken or do any of those kind of things, which I should have. He did sign, back at Fox Kids, he signed, I had an old Star Wars lunchbox, and it has Luke's, you can't even tell it's Luke, but those of us who know it's Luke's X-Wing, and he signed it and he drew an arrow, I am here, you know, like, that's pretty cool.
You,
Side benefits of the job.
You-
But the Muppets, when you say
Yeah.
goodbye, those characters, oh my God, if I could write a scene for Ernie and Bert, I could die happy, you know?
you mentioned when we were talking about this before that you had recently a new gig, you were the new chair of the screen.
Yes, that's not a paid job, but that I am the newly elected leader of all the animation writers at the Writers Guild of America. I'm like, oh, figure, wow. First woman in history.
What does that,
I'm
congratulations.
like historical.
What is,
I'm not quite sure what that means, you know, so all of my friends who were there, and they were all saying, I'm gonna vote for you. I'm like, I don't know what you people want me to do, but, you know, but they're very Kermit the Frog of me. You're like, okay, follow me over here, I don't know where we're going.
does that, I mean, that seems like it's a very good move for the animation session writers guild to, you know, a woman for the first time.
I hope so.
Do you have any kinds of hopes or goals for that position, what you can do for the writers, or where you hope to, a place you hope to lead the writers to?
Well,
Yeah,
largely,
I think
it's trying to get some kind of union coverage, any kind of union coverage. There's an animation guild, well, TAG, the animation guild. Some of us are covered on certain shows, like Ben 10 was one of them. But it's for animators. And if you happen to be lucky enough to be on a show that covers their animators with this guild, then some of them kind of will let the writers also be involved in that union. But it's largely animation writing is just unregulated. You know, they can pay $1 if they felt like it. They can say, here's $1, it's due tomorrow, if they wanted to. So any kind of, you know, pension and health, all those sort of boring grown-up things that we all need. Yeah, I was amazed actually when I first started doing this for a living, how very unregulated it is. Like, this is a real grown-up job that people do. What? It's like mowing lawns or shoveling snow. It's so random. You know, like this woman, she has a much bigger driveway and she pays less money, and, you know, than the woman down the street. But it's just whatever people want to pay and whatever you're willing to take. And there's no, not across the board, but large. I sort of describe it as a giant chocolate chip cookie or a pizza when you think of, okay, most of it is just completely random and unregulated, and then the pepperonis or the chocolate chips would be the ones that are covered by this animation guilds that allows the writers to be covered as well. And then very little, like even just a couple little sprinkles might be covered by the writers guild. And that's, I would say in the center, that's they call it prime time, but it's a block of prime time on one night on one network, and it's The Simpsons, you know, it's that Family Guy, it's American Dad, that stuff is Writers Guild, but, and a couple of other little foreign projects here, but nothing you can really count. Most of it is just Wild West, and as is video game writing, and there's a video game writers caucus as well at the Writers Guild that's trying to get some kind of coverage.
Is there a culture of people relying on their spouses for things like health insurance and type of
Absolutely, yeah, you gotta be independently wealthy or have family who is. It's shocking to me, you know, the people that I looked up to and loved their work and to even realize the conditions that they were working under. And, oh my God, that's just
Comics
wrong.
is very similar. There's
Comics,
no
worse,
coverage
worse.
for.
When you think how much money gets made by the corporate, you know, not the individual people are all wonderful, they're all our friends, but the greater corporations.
And it's just volunteer organizations like Hero Initiative that try to cover comics writers and artists when they're dying.
Yeah, and
have
there's nothing like that
Yeah.
for animation writers, but very much so. Hero Initiative is wonderful. And the fact that some of these people that created these big characters that we know and that have made billions for corporate, will
Change the
continue
world.
to make billions.
Characters that change the world. Yeah.
But money-wise,
Yeah.
you know, that have made so much money for the suits of the world and will 100 years from now,
Mhm.
and that someone can't, you know, get dialysis when they need it, or, you know, some the person who created this is ludicrous.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm hoping, we'll see. I've still got a lot to learn about how the system works and where all these, obviously other people have tried and have run into brick walls, so I'm gonna sort of find out where the brick walls are and bring my steamroller, bring my
Do you have any last questions here on our final minutes?
If you're starting out as a writer, and I'm actually in California, I'm in San Diego.
Oh, fantastic, you're gonna be there next week?
Yeah, I'll be at Comic-Con, I volunteer,
Sweet, find me. Yeah,
volunteer
okay.
hospitality,
Very
so,
cool.
yeah. But, starting out, I joined Women in Animation,
Excellent.
and getting there sometimes is awkward, because it's 2 hours drive if you're lucky. Anything else the starting off person with like 0 credits should do?
Well, since you're local to me,
Yeah.
I can say I actually host 2 young writers groups at my home twice a month. We have my own friends and other people in the industry as guest speakers, and we started off with just one writers group, and I say we, it's not my writers group, I was a guest speaker to them. And they met at a comic book store that was really loud and chaotic, and people, you know, folding chairs and, you know, clanking, and people are playing RPG games and stuff around, and they were being charged for the space. And when I went there to speak, and I'm like, oh my God, you guys have to be in my living room, this is crazy. You know, these are all the young up-and-comers that of course reminded me of myself when, you know, you don't want to be spending money on the space. And then it gave them a certain cachet to be meeting, and I forget, like, oh, Charlotte Fullerton, Duffy's house, wow. Oh, okay, it's just my living room. But all right. Yes, for sure. Find me online, definitely. Remind me.
And what is the name of the group?
There is no name. It's not like it's not women in animation. It's not a thing. It's just, there's the young writers group, and now we have the baby writers group. We try to keep it down to about a dozen people, maybe 20, just because they do write. Everybody shows up, there's a guest, people bring snacks, and then after about a couple of hours, they bring in their pages, they bring in their, you know, that's why I support them. They actually write and show up, and people enter the ABC Screenwriting Fellowships and the Nickelodeon Fellowships, the CBS Fellowships, and one guy sold his own show to DreamWorks. He workshopped it in my living room. It's awesome. And there were so many people clamoring to get into that group that we splintered off and started the Baby Writers group. So it's not age-based, it's just experience within the industry.
Right.
So now everybody in the original young writers group has all sold their first script or done something to put it bumped up. Now we got the B team coming up, and
So do you have a website that I should contact you through?
I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm all over there. Google me, you can't miss me. I'm online.
I'm really sadly out of time.
I'm saying it's such a small group, we should just, you know, well, relatively small, we should just all go to the Starbucks. Coffee. I feel like I should offer that because Jim Henson did that for me. We should go have coffee. It's not, well, sure, that sounds like it'd be fine.